Not hard to see why the artist himself calls this graffiti spaghetti. It's the work of a Briton named Sam Cox, aka Mr. Doodle, and he put on a live show recently in part of Hong Kong, a special administrative region of China. Cox's art often follows a character, also named Mr. Doodle, who embarks on adventures through Doodle Land. Yes, Doodle is really fun to say. And the artist says he likes to create work that doesn't take itself too seriously, kind of like his outfit, and that, quote, consumes big spaces with doodles. It certainly does that. He adds he doesn't always know where the work is going to go, but he likes to have people watching the process unfold. And one of these people at this event said Mr. Doodle brings relaxation, joy, and happiness as he cooks up graffiti spaghetti. So happy to have you kicking off a new week with the world from A to Z, and we hope your Thanksgiving was terrific. My name is Carl Azus. Please bear with me today. I'm still fighting back some laryngitis, but thankfully, I'm still able to bring you up to speed on what's happening worldwide. That includes a pause in the fighting between the nation of Israel and the Hamas militant group that controls the Palestinian territory of Gaza. For the first time since their latest war began in early October, a short-term agreement was reached between the two sides. It took effect on Friday. It was expected to last 4 days, but could go longer. Under the deal, Hamas said it would release 50 of the roughly 240 hostages it took when it launched a terrorist attack against Israel on October 7th. In exchange, Israel said it would release 150 Palestinians who've been held in Israeli prisons. Also during this time, hundreds of trucks carrying medical aid, food, water, and fuel supplies have been allowed to enter Gaza from its border with Egypt. The United Nations says it's the most humanitarian aid that's gotten into Gaza since the war began, but that it's, quote, hardly enough. Israel says the truce could be extended by 1 additional day for every 10 additional hostages released by Hamas, but both sides have indicated they plan to continue fighting once the truce ends.
World of knowledge. What is the largest private employer in the United States? Amazon, UPS, McDonald's, Walmart. With about 1.6 million workers in the US and many more worldwide, America's largest private employer is Walmart.
In terms of the number of people who work there, only the federal government has more, with almost 3 million employees, but it's not a private employer. Not surprisingly, Walmart's also the biggest retail company in America, with hundreds of billions in sales annually. But retailers as a whole aren't hiring as many seasonal or temporary workers over the holidays as they have in recent years. And experts say one thing that indicates is that companies think Americans might be more cautious with their spending this time around. Of course, there have also been changes in how Americans shop. Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, set a new online record in the U.S. with almost $10 billion in sales, but forecasts haven't been as bright for what'll happen in stores.
'Tis the season for sales, but while prices are down, so is the number of seasonal workers.
A lot of employers now have enough people on staff where they only need a slight uptick in the number of employees that they're going to have for the holiday season.
According to Andy Challenger from outplacement services firm Challenger Gray and Christmas, this year retailers advertised the lowest number of seasonal positions in a decade. Just 2 years ago, retailers hit a record high, nearly 1 million holiday jobs.
During the pandemic years, retailers were seeing unprecedented desire from Americans to buy their products. They were strapped.
Today, numbers have dropped a sharp 40% compared to pandemic times, indicating the type of employees needed for seasonal work has changed.
There has been this massive migration to e-commerce, which really changes the types of workers that companies and retailers need to hire during the holidays.
Glassdoor chief economist Aaron Terraza says it's no longer about face-to-face customer engagement.
Amazon was the only major retailer to announce a big uptick in the number of employees that they're expecting to hire this season.
And while brick and mortar jobs tend to shed holiday hires by January, some seasonal jobs in the e-commerce market may be around for, let's say, an extended season.
Those companies tend to keep seasonal workers on through February, sometimes even March.
And even though Amazon announced 250,000 holiday hires for its arm of the retail equation, overall, the delivery and warehouse jobs across the nation, well, those figures are down as well. In Los Angeles, I'm Mike Valerio.
Checking up now on who's watching from the Northeast to the American West. In the borough of Palmyra, Pennsylvania. So happy to see Miss Stossel's class today at Palmyra Area High School in the Keystone State. Let's go Cougars. Next, to Tooele, a city in the Beehive State of Utah, we've got the Buffaloes with us today. Mr. Ashby's class, great to see you at Tooele High School.
On this date in world history.
On November 27, 1895, Swedish inventor and businessman Alfred Nobel signed his will, setting aside money from his estate for what would become the Nobel Prizes. They're awarded each year to people who've made contributions in the categories of chemistry, literature, peace, physics, and physiology or medicine. On this date in 1924, the Macy's department store put on a parade to encourage shopping at its new store in New York. The event featured costumes, floats, and animals from the Central Park Zoo. It became an annual event after that, with the famous helium balloons first appearing in 1927. In 1954, former U.S. government official Alger Hiss was released from prison. Hiss had been suspected of helping the Soviet Union spy on America in the run-up to the Cold War. But he had been convicted for perjury, lying under oath, after evidence came out in the related investigation. Hiss and his supporters argued he was innocent for decades after he served more than 3.5 years in prison.
It's critical for our well-being. A prolonged lack of social connections can make us lonely and affect both mental and physical health, says psychiatrist Cynthia Stonington with Mayo Clinic.
When we are isolated, we end up having stress responses that we don't even realize potentially is going on.
The CDC says loneliness is feeling like you don't have meaningful or close relationships or a sense of belonging. It can affect concentration, sleep, appetite, or energy, and increase the risk for a host of medical issues like heart disease, stroke, diabetes, addiction, and dementia.
The feeling of loneliness can happen even when you have people around if you aren't feeling understood or connected or engaged.
5 ways to improve social connections starts with devoting time and attention to developing and maintaining relationships. Keep in contact with others and reach out to sources of support when you need to, but also provide that support to them when needed. Strengthen the quality of social connections by finding ways to be responsive, supportive, and grateful to others. Address barriers that may be keeping you away from others, like technology. Make the time to connect.
On our November 17th show, we asked for your thoughts on this. From Miss Bobnock's class at Crestview High School, loneliness, especially among teenagers, is caused by anxiety and increased during the pandemic due to social isolation. Seeing friends on social media having fun and feeling left out can make us feel lonely too. Miss Moreno's class has these suggestions. Find a hobby that gets you out of the house. Get a job. Call instead of text. One other response. Cell phones, gaming, and media isolate people in general. Parents are working so much that they do not have time to spend with their kids. Everyone should reach out to others. We can remind each other of our similarities instead of our differences. Oh, what a tangled web we weave, unless 'tis a wig record we conceive. That's what happened recently for a woman in the West African nation of Nigeria. Helen Williams is a professional wig maker, so she decided she'd weave a longer hairpiece than any other in existence. After combining 1,000 bundles of hair with 35 tubes of glue and more than 6,200 clips at a cost of around $2,500, Guinness World Records says Williams' wig was record-worthy at more than 1,152 feet long. She keeps it in her office. Which is a hair-raising hair-suit heirloom for someone who doesn't tear her hair out at the hair-headed notion of putting on hairs and tangling with a terribly hard hair-knuckle challenge that hairs down records without splitting hairs and doing something the haired way and winning by far more than a hair. I'm Carl Azus, rocking my hairlines on the world from A to Z.